In a modern city in Japan, where the young generation is constantly looking for new opportunities to challenge themselves. Kano, a young girl, is also on a journey of self-discovery, with a desire to develop her career and create an extremely useful image on social networks. She takes a job as a photo model for an independent magazine. The shoots were creative, the team was young and full of energy, and the pay was better than most entry-level office jobs. On paper, it looked like a dream. She even started to grow a following online. People loved her style, her smile, her glow. But something about it started changing her. At first, it was just the long hours. Then it was the early call times, the silent competition between models, the unspoken pressure to always look fresh, even when she felt like collapsing. No matter how many compliments she got online, they never filled the growing emptiness inside. Her phone never stopped buzzing DMIZ, story replies, brand requests, comments. All of it was supposed to mean she was doing well. But the more attention she got, the more exhausted she felt.
最初から気持ちよかった。
あれ、今日かな子
友達と食べてくるって。
友達って
女子会だって。でももしかしたら彼氏からね。
おい、飛ばさないでくれよ。
やっぱり彼氏が嫌なんだ。
嫌じゃないけどさ、まともなやつだな。
男は付き合ってみないとわからないからね。
おい。
あ、帰り。早かったのね。
おかえり。
At home, her mother, Yumi, noticed the change immediately. Kano no longer joined her for tea in the evenings. She ate less, smiled less, and spent more time alone. Yumi didn't confront her. She didn't want to lecture her daughter. She simply did what mothers often do when they don't have the words. She waited. She watched.
起きてる？入っていい？かの子、寝ちゃった？入るわよ。風邪ひいちゃうわよ、まったく。
And when the moment was right, she sat down beside her and asked a simple question. Are you happy, really? Kano blinked, startled, as if someone had finally noticed what she'd been hiding. For a moment, she didn't speak. Her fingers gripped the mug in her hands. Then she whispered, I don't know. That's when Yumi knew. This wasn't just stress. This was a soul being drained slowly, day by day, in a work environment that looked glamorous from the outside, but quietly wore her down inside. She knew she couldn't just sit back and watch anymore. The next day, Yumi goes to the magazine office with Kano. She didn't storm in angrily. She was calm, respectful, but firm. She told them that her daughter needed a break, that her well-being came first, and that no job, no matter how exciting, was worth this level of silent suffering. What she expected was resistance, a cold response, maybe even a brush-off. But what she got instead changed everything.
Ah, ユミ、じゃなくて、かのこさんのお母さんですよね。
はい。
どうぞどうぞ、中入ってください。
失礼します。
お母さん、どうぞ、こう座ってください。
One of the editors invited her in for tea. They sat down, talked, and for the first time, Yumi heard a different side of the story.
何ですか、これ。
かのこがいただいたお金、お返しします。
It wasn't all toxic. The people there weren't villains. They talked about the pressure they all felt, the race to stay relevant, to adapt to trends, to keep the magazine alive in a world where attention spans are shrinking. They admitted that yes, it was intense, but they also believed in creativity, in storytelling, in giving young voices a platform. And they shared something else. We didn't mean to push her. We thought she was thriving. Yumi didn't know what to say. Part of her still wanted to take Kano away from all of this, to bring her back home and shield her from the harshness of that world. But another part of her was curious. Could it be that this environment wasn't just cruel, but also complex? Could it be that with the right mindset and the right balance, it could become a space for growth? She looked around the studio. Lights, cameras, sketches, and color boards everywhere. And for the first time in a long time, she felt something stir in her chest, too. A question she hadn't asked herself in years. What if I tried something new, too? That night, after coming home from the magazine office, Yumi stood in front of the mirror and thought. For years, she had given everything to her family. The meals, the errands, the invisible labor. Her world had slowly shrunk into predictable routines. There was pride in that. Of course there was. But somewhere along the way, she had forgotten what it felt like to be curious, to be alive in her own skin, not just in the shadows of those she loved. And now, something had been reignited. That studio wasn't just about youth and beauty. It was about creativity, expression, a space where even silence had style and energy had purpose. She had felt it in the air, the spark of something bold, something unapologetically alive. The next week, she went back. This time, she didn't come as Kano's mother. She came as herself. She didn't care what role they gave her. She just wanted to be part of something again, to learn, to listen, to stretch parts of herself that had gone quiet. At home, her husband, her daughter, Kano began to notice the change. Yumi, who used to always wait in the kitchen, was now coming home with stories, laughing more, talking about fabrics and lighting and photo styles. She is not just a wife or a mother anymore. She was glowing. For the first time in months, they laughed, the kind of laughter that fills a room, not because something is funny, but because something is healed. They began to share more. Kano showed her mom how to manage social media posts. Yumi helped Kano choose outfits that aligned with both style and comfort. The energy between them shifted from worry to warmth, from strain to support. They were no longer just mother and daughter. They were women walking different paths side by side. And perhaps the most beautiful part? They weren't trying to become someone else. They were simply learning how to become more fully themselves. He didn't say anything, but he noticed everything. Kano's father, Hiroshi, wasn't a man of many words. He believed in hard work, in routines, in quiet responsibility. For most of his life, he carried the role of provider like armor. And in return, he rarely asked for anything more than peace. But lately, that peace felt unfamiliar. The house, once filled with silence and steady rhythms, now had moments of change. He knew Yumi was doing something new. He watched his daughter come back to life, laughing again, scrolling through inspiration boards, looking forward instead of looking tired. He stayed on the sidelines, smiling when they smiled, listening when they talked, supporting quietly. And just like that, he wasn't just watching. He was part of it. No one told them they had changed, but everything around them began to reflect it. There was a new rhythm in the house now, not rushed, not loud, just present. Meals were shared more often. The conversations flowed with a kind of openness they hadn't known before. No one was pretending anymore. Yumi still folded laundry, but she did it with music playing in the background. Hiroshi still went to work in the mornings, but sometimes he stayed back a little longer in the evenings just to help with a project. And Kano, she wasn't chasing perfection in every post. She was telling real stories, stories that felt like hers. And that made all the difference. Their home hadn't gotten bigger. Their income hadn't doubled. They hadn't made it in the way the world often defines success. But they were no longer simply surviving a harsh world. They were learning how to live within it. And maybe that was the lesson all along. It wasn't about the job, or the magazine, or the photos. It wasn't about social media, aesthetics, or career paths. It was about connection, the kind that starts at home, is tested by the world, and strengthened through understanding. The working world was still intense, still full of pressure and competition. Not everything had changed outside those apartment walls, but they had. And because of that, everything felt different. They had each taken different paths into the same discovery. That true strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, "You're enough, just as you are." So if you've ever felt like the world is pushing too fast, if you've ever wondered whether it's too late to change, if you've ever looked at your life and thought, "Is this all I'll ever be?" let this story remind you, it's never too late to start again. Not because something is broken, but because there's more of you waiting to be discovered. And sometimes the most beautiful transformations happen in the most ordinary places, at a window, over tea, in a moment of quiet love.